Hi, everyone. Welcome to Pagan Happy Hour. Thank you so much for joining me. If you are new here, I do these every week, and today it's a little bit unusual. Usually, I do Pagan Happy Hour on Fridays at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern, but I'm actually getting on a plane tomorrow, so I had to move Pagan Happy Hour to today. So those of you that have made it, thank you so much for joining me. I'm really excited for today's topic. I put up a poll the other day and you guys voted for lucid dreaming and astral travel. So that's what we're going to discuss today. We might even throw in some sleep paralysis stuff too. So it should be a good chat. If you do enjoy Pagan Happy Hour, there are two ways you can support the show. The first way is through my Patreon. So I have that linked down below. And if you choose to join my Patreon, you get exclusive access to our Discord community, which I've been doing a lot with lately. We actually started to do monthly Discord only live chats. So if that is something you're interested in, if you're looking for a kind and supportive pagan and witchy community, definitely check that out. The other great way you can support the show is through the Super Chats button, which is at the bottom of the chat box. Through that, you can donate any amount and your question or comment will pop up really big on my screen. So I'll be sure to bring in your thoughts and your ideas into the conversation. And two other quick updates. I am still running my Kickstarter. I have about 30 days left on that, and that is for my tarot deck, the Key Tarot. So if you are a tarot enthusiast or just curious about tarot, I have that link down below you can check out. And I posted a video about mead the other day, so check that out too if you are interested in learning about the history of mead and why it has so many connections to paganism. So now that we got those updates out of the way, I would love for you in the comments to tell me where you are watching from today and what you are drinking. So let me cue the drink music and let's get started. Okay, so let me get my drink here. I'm drinking out of my Pagan Happy Hour drinking horn, and I happen to be drinking mead today, so it's the drink of the week, I guess. Let's see. We have people chiming in from Arizona, from Eastern Pennsylvania, from California, from Seattle, from India, Indiana, Canada, North Dakota, Illinois, Minnesota, Chicago, Washington, Winnipeg, Hungary, Argentina, North Carolina, Oklahoma, Chile, Maine, England, Michigan, Tennessee. Awesome. So it sounds like we still got a good crew together, even though we're doing Pagan Happy Hour a day early this week. So thank you guys so much for joining me. And if you're curious, I pulled out the mead that I picked up this week for my video that I did. This is Southern Origin Meadery. Not sponsored or anything. I just think it's a pretty good one. So I thought I'd mention it. And of course, I have a little Isis wine stopper out there. But yeah, it's been really fun learning about mead this week. So I'm excited to share all of that with you as well. But let's jump into it. Today we are talking about our dreams. So let me turn off the drink music and we'll get to it. Okay, so let me have a sip of my beverage and let's start by talking a bit about lucid dreaming. So lucid dreaming, if you're unaware, is basically when you're dreaming, you become conscious of the fact that you're dreaming. And once you become aware that you are dreaming, it kind of allows you some power to make changes in your dream. So you can affect your own actions, you can perhaps affect the actions of others, or even change the environment around you. So the thing I've read, that most people try and do the minute you realize you're lucid dreaming and that you have some type of conscious power in the dream, you'll try and just fly, right? Because why not? That's a superpower most of us want. So when you lucid dream, you can try to do any of those things that you've always wanted to imagine yourself doing. So it can be this really fun thing to experience. And I'd love to hear in the comments how many of you have had experience with lucid dreaming, because it's not something that everyone finds common. While there are a large group of people who lucid dream quite often, it is also a skill that you can actually grow and develop if it is something that you are interested in doing. Let's see some facts here about lucid dreaming. It's actually pretty old in terms of a phenomenon that people have been writing about. Lucid dreaming is mentioned in early Buddhist texts. It's mentioned in ancient Greek texts. So ancient peoples were very well aware of this ability that some people seem to have. And let's see, about 23% of people experience lucid dreaming on a regular basis. Some experience it once a month or even more often. And it is apparently more common in adolescence than in adulthood. So perhaps you might have experienced it more often when you were younger. But that doesn't mean you can't experience it in adulthood. So let me hear your thoughts. Let me check the comments over here about if you've experienced this phenomenon. Let's see. Drakara says, I used to when I was young, but I lost the ability as life became more traumatic. So yeah, that's interesting. And a lot of people tend to be more lucid dreamers when they are a bit younger. Let's see. Graves is saying, I'm able to use it to stop nightmares. That's a really good tool. Let's see. Old Architect in the comments is saying, I have lucid dreams a lot lately. That's neat. Let me see. Jenna is saying, I lucid dream from time to time, but I haven't figured out how to control my dream. I get scared while sleeping, but can't seem to wake myself up. I actually have that experience quite often. So I am a person that lucid dreams probably, maybe not once a month, but once every other month, I experience a lucid dream. And more often than not, as soon as I become lucid, as soon as I realize I'm dreaming, my dream self freaks out and tries to wake me up. So it's really hard for me to stay in the dream state once I become aware. Though I have had a couple ones that have been more positive, where I have been able to do things like fly and, take the dream wherever I wanted to take it. But more often than not, I'm like you in the comments that mentioned how tricky it is to stay in the dream once you become aware that you're dreaming. Let's see a couple other comments here about lucid dreaming. Let's see. Nick in the comments says, I truly believe that dreams are a gateway into something. What that is, it's hard to say. Yes, the whole concept of dreams in general is really fascinating because science hasn't quite figured out exactly what's going on while we're dreaming. So there is a lot of mystery still to the dream state. Let's see here. Rachel in the comments is saying, I was able to control what I dreamt about if I concentrated on what I wanted to dream about, but that she was only able to do that when she was young. Let's see. Carolina in the comments says, I do it constantly since as long as I can remember. I've even had a very scary experience with it when I suddenly came across something I knew wasn't part of my mind or my own consciousness. Yeah, that would be really spooky. Let's see. Really great comments. So it sounds like a lot of you, at least joining me today, have had at least some experiences with lucid dreaming, which I'm kind of not surprised by. I feel like people who are more attuned to their dreams, towards other states of consciousness, towards things like intuition, tend to be pretty witchy people, perhaps. So you might also be naturally gravitated towards this kind of content. Oh, I do have a couple other notes here about lucid dreaming I wanted to share. One is a study that was done in 2004 that found a strong correlation between lucid dreaming and nightmare frequency. So the people that had a lot of nightmares were often the same people that could lucid dream the most. So that's kind of weird and kind of spooky, like almost the nightmare can trigger the lucid dream, perhaps. So I did think that was really interesting. And also, there's the idea that if you start lucid dreaming, then you could then control the nightmare or change it. So it could be useful, but it could also be pretty scary if you suddenly become aware that you're dreaming in the middle of a nightmare. And I do actually have a story about that, something that happened to me called a false awakening. I don't know if you've ever heard this term, but let me tell you this spooky story after I take a sip of my mead. So this happened maybe like 3 years ago or so. And a false awakening is when you think you've woken up, but in reality, you're still dreaming. So I was having this experience where I was dreaming. I become aware or conscious that I was dreaming. So at that point, I'm lucid dreaming. But there was some type of dark, demonic entity or spirit in my room. And that was terrifying to me. And I was conscious and I'm like, I got to get out of this dream. How do I escape this monster? How do I get out of here? And this is going to get kind of dark. So a little bit of a trigger warning. But because I was lucid dreaming and I was conscious, I remembered that the one way you can get yourself out of a dream is if you die in a dream, right? If you've ever experienced dying in a dream, usually you wake up right after. So I'm like, okay, I got to die in this dream. So I would kill myself in a variety of weird ways in my room to try to throw myself out the window or whatever, and just trying to escape this demon in my dream. And then I do, and then I wake up. And then I'm in my room, I'm waking up, and I realize there's just something weird about my room. The bookshelf isn't quite straightened right, or the doors close weirdly. And then I suddenly realize I did not wake up. I'm still dreaming. I woke up inside the exact same dream. And as soon as I become lucid again, that demon creature, this dark entity, shows up in my dream, and I'm doing the same thing. Okay, I got to figure out a way to jump out the window so I can die in the dream and wake up in real life. And this false awakening happened, I would say, at least 10 times where I could not escape the cycle. I would die in the dream, immediately wake up. It looks like I'm fully woken up, like I actually woke up. I'm in my bedroom. And then something weird happens, or something seems out of place, and it triggers the realization that no, I'm still dreaming. So I knew at a certain point that this cycle wasn't going to stop the way I was handling it, that I wouldn't be able to wake myself up in reality by dying in the dream. So I don't know exactly how this thought came to me, but in my dream, I remembered this ancient Greek god, Morpheus. Morpheus, I'm sure you're familiar with the Matrix, but Morpheus is an ancient Greek god, the god of dreams. So in this false awakening, in this cycle that I had been gone through, I finally like, okay, I got to try a new strategy. So I remember I called on Morpheus, the god of dreams, to help me. And he actually appeared. So I'm in my dream. I'm scared of this creepy demon. I have to get out of this false awakening cycle that I'm in. And Morpheus appeared. He was this old man with all of these wrinkles, these deep wrinkles over his face, and his eyes were closed. He had this kind of dark cloak on that was kind of like swirling and moving in kind of a spooky way. But I remember he opened his mouth real wide, and I realized in the dream I could climb inside of it. So I climbed inside of his mouth, and then immediately, like that, I finally woke up in reality, and I was finally out of this cycle, this loop of false awakenings. So I just wanted to share that story because it's kind of scary, and it was such a neat experience to look back on and be like, oh my God, I was in this permanent cycle of lucid dreaming that I just couldn't get out of. And for some reason, my conscious or my subconscious knew to like ask for help from the divine, and it actually came. So it was really exciting that helped me get out of this cycle. But that was the only experience I had with false awakenings tied to lucid dreaming. I'd be curious if any of you have experienced a false awakening where it seems like you've woken up, but you're still dreaming, and what that was like for you. So let me check your comments here. Let's see. Oh, Rowan has an interesting comment that says, I've had a similar false awakening in which I was being strangled. And as a Christian witch, I called out Jesus Christ and he repelled the demon and I could finally wake up. Oh my gosh, so spooky. Let's see. Oh, and I see Emily in the comments is saying, I used to have false awakenings all the time in my teens. Very scary. Yes. Super scary. Let's see, another comment here that says, oh my God, yes, I had that. I had a dream within a dream and I wasn't sure if I could really awake once I woke up. Yeah, really spooky stuff. Graves is saying, it's like the dream sequences in American Werewolf in London where he had nightmares and he thought he was awake and then it gets worse. Yeah, very spooky. Frederico in the comments says, happened to me too. I always make friends with them. I'm always like, hey, don't make me laugh. And the demons always become friendly after I tell them to not make me laugh. That's a good strategy. Maybe I should implement that for next time. Oh my gosh, you guys have a lot of spooky stories. This is so wonderful. Awesome. Oh, and I did see I have a super chat here. A couple of them. One from Jakara, thank you so much, that says, that is wild, Scarlett. Thank you for sharing. I'm glad you enjoyed that. It's one of my more spookier stories, I guess. And then we have a super chat from Nick here that says, I once had a micro dream where I fell asleep while asleep. It felt very dark and oppressive. Ooh, that's interesting. Yeah, so falling asleep while you're already asleep. So this kind of like, cycles of dreams or being stuck in the dream and not being able to get out. I'm glad I'm not alone there. That some of you guys have had similar experiences. And it kind of makes me even think of the movie Inception, where in that movie they go, a dream within a dream and they just get kind of further down that rabbit hole. So really kind of neat stuff. And it just makes me wonder so much, like, what is going on in my subconscious there that like that needed to happen? Clearly I have some things I need to work through or something. But moving on to kind of the good aspects of lucid dreaming, because it's not always this demon-filled, scary experience. A lot of people have wonderful lucid dreams, and I've had many good lucid dreams as well. And this is something that you can get better at over time and train yourself to do if you're interested. There are a couple things you can try out. Probably the first one is just maintaining good sleep hygiene. So what that means is making sure you don't have your phone next to you, in bed, that you are going to sleep at the same time, waking up at the same time most nights. So establishing this good routine ensures that you'll have longer time of REM sleep. And it is during that REM cycle that lucid dreaming can occur. So the more time you have in REM, the more chances you have to lucid dream. So anything that helps you establish a good night routine is going to help at least hopefully get you closer to lucid dreaming. A couple other things. Let's see. Keeping a dream journal can also help with lucid dreaming. And even if lucid dreaming isn't necessarily your goal, keeping a dream journal can be a great activity to do anyway. It helps you get more in touch with certain things that might be occurring within your subconscious. You might find repeated symbols or animals or things showing up in your dreams that could be really interesting to take note on, because it could be a message either coming just from within, from your own subconscious, or coming from spirit or the divine or anything like that. So that can be really neat when you start making notes of your dreams. And this can be very tricky to do, because the last thing you want to do when you wake up all groggy in the morning is pull out a pencil and start jotting down. I personally, sometimes I'll be really good at it. I'll do it for like a month and then I fade out and don't do it for 6 months or a year, and then I'll get back into it. So I'm still trying to get better at dream journaling, but I do see the value in it. And I think it could be really useful for anyone who is either just interested in dream interpretation or trying to encourage more lucid dreamings. Let me see. A couple other things you can try. One study from 2015 said that those who had a lot of experiences with meditation were able to lucid dream easier. So meditating, another thing that's great to do anyway, also might help you enter into a lucid dream. And another thing that is a bit more curious is you can do what are called reality checks during the day. And these reality checks are something you do just to confirm that you are not dreaming, that you are in a waking state in reality. Now, these can be in any number of things. For example, one of the things people do is they might like press their palm or their finger into the palm of their hand to feel like the solid flesh to realize, yep, I'm awake. I'm not dreaming right now. Another thing people have done is they'll find a clock and look at the second hand and make sure time is moving correctly. Or if you've seen like the movie Inception, he has the spinning top where he spins it to make sure that he is not in a dream. So doing these reality checks, you want to do them fairly frequently, or at least maybe a couple times a day if you're trying to get better at lucid dreaming. And the repetition of these reality checks will ensure that your subconscious will eventually, it'll do one while you're dreaming. And then when it does that reality check while you're dreaming, you'll realize something's off. If, for example, your reality check is pressing your palm to your finger, you'll realize it doesn't feel quite right. Or if your reality check is looking at a clock, it's not moving in exactly the right way. And at that point, it triggers the lucid dream. So this is definitely something you can try out if you're wanting to get better at lucid dreams or to encourage them more often. And I think that's cool. I haven't really tried that before. When I lucid dream, it's just kind of random. I haven't personally tried to induce them in a more regular basis, but I think it's really neat that there are a lot of systems in place that can help you do that if it's something you're interested in. So let me check your comments here, and then we will move on to chatting a bit about sleep paralysis, which is something a little spooky that I also wanted to cover briefly. Let's see. Oh, checking the comments here. YJ in the comments mentioning about the reality check idea says, I look at my feet. It's dumb, but it works for me every time. It always makes me remember I'm in the dream state and bam, I go lucid. That's a good one too. That's super easy. Just looking at your feet periodically throughout the day. Let me see here. Let's see. Rowan says, if I can't journal my dreams right away, I will do a voice recording about it on my cell phone that I can go back and journal that content later. That's a great idea because, as you're probably aware, when you're trying to write down what happened in your dream, it slips away so quickly and we can only write so fast. So perhaps, just recording it with your phone helps you just kind of spew all that information out as quickly as possible before it disappears, and then you can just write it down later. That's a really good idea. Let's see. Let's see. Question here by Shako Starsun that's asking, do you think dream symbology is an accurate thing? Good question. It's tricky. I think that some symbols are universal. So when I do tarot readings, for example, I'm really into tarot. There's a lot of symbolism in tarot. And I think that symbol or some of those symbols really connect to our own subconscious and also the collective unconscious. So we all recognize what these symbols mean, what they represent. So like a sword, you see lots of swords in tarot, right? Often swords, when we see them, in tarot, they can represent different things like the mind and everything like that. But also in a visceral sense, swords mean battles, war, violence, conflict. So certain symbols like that are universal, right? A rose universally means love and beauty, right? So some things I do believe have this universal meaning or message, but a lot of symbols are going to be entirely unique to you and your own lived experience. So a certain symbol that you might see in a dream might mean nothing to me, but to you, it might mean a lot because it could connect to a memory or something that's happened in your past. So I do think there is benefit towards learning dream symbols and dream symbolism, but you have to take it with a grain of salt because everyone is going to have their own interpretations on what these symbols mean. So you kind of have to come up with your own personal glossary of these symbols and what you believe they mean. And that's a great opportunity to dig into your subconscious and use your intuition to kind of feel the meaning of these symbols instead of just reading what someone else says they mean. Let's see. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is sleep paralysis, which is a very spooky thing that I've only experienced a couple times. It's pretty rare for me, but I know it is common. And with sleep paralysis, what it is basically your body starts to wake, but there's an issue. Your consciousness is awake, but your body can't move. So you're kind of stuck, you're trapped. And what's very weird and unusual about sleep paralysis is when you're in this state, you're conscious, but your mind will often start hallucinating. And there are some pretty common, very dark hallucinations people experience. A lot of people who have sleep paralysis will experience seeing a shadow person or some type of demon creature in their room. Sometimes it can even like sit on their chest or like it feels like they're choking them or restricting their breathing in some way. And these ideas and these sensations go way back. You can find paintings of people experiencing these kind of nightmare sleep paralysis that show demons in the room. So this is something people were aware of and something that people have experienced for a very long time. It is very curious, I think, why our hallucinations when we have sleep paralysis are always so dark and disturbing. I don't know about you guys. Maybe you've had a better experience, but pretty much all the experiences I've read about people experiencing sleep paralysis are always very scary. They always feature some type of dark entity either talking to them or near them or coming close to the bed or sitting on their chest or restricting their breathing. And it's surprising that we hallucinate something so dark and depressing and dramatic in that moment. It really must trigger this fear response in us when we get in this weird half awake stage. Um, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I did on Instagram earlier today ask people what their sleep paralysis experiences were, and I got a lot of different responses from everyone. And they were pretty much the same kind of thing. Like there was this dark demon or this entity or this shadow person in my room, and it was terrifying. So, do you have any ideas or any thoughts on why that is? Why in sleep paralysis do we always hallucinate this kind of dark, shadowy person? And what that means? Like, of course, some people, if you want to go super like spiritual with it, some people might say like, oh, that's real. Maybe you're just it's in those half awake moments that we are able to see the spirit realm where normally we're not seeing it. And that's really spooky. What do you think about that idea that there could just be entities and spirits in our room at all times, and it's only in these altered states that we can actually view them and interact with them? But what do you guys think? I want to hear your thoughts on sleep paralysis because I find it all so fascinating. Let's see. In the comments, Barnacle says, wow, this happened to my dad recently and he was terrified. He thought the devil was literally stepping on his chest. Yeah, super spooky. Let's see. Catherine in the comments says, I used to sleepwalk a lot as a kid. We all saw this same shadowy figure wearing a wide brim hat and a trench coat with a high popped collar. Very spooky. And that not just her, but her sisters saw the same figure as well. Now, that is really interesting because if you were all seeing the same figure, then that might suggest it really was a ghost or an entity, perhaps in your house. And even the idea of the trench coat with the hat, that's a common motif too. I've read a lot of stories of people who have seen a similar shadowy figure. Let me see. Super spooky though. I'm gonna have bad dreams tonight. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Let's see. Let me see if any of you guys have any other crazy stories you want to share. Let's see. JF in the comments says, I've never seen a demon while experiencing sleep paralysis, but I have heard a demonic voice once in that state and it freaked me out. Yeah, that would be very freaky. Let's see. I know one story, my friend has had sleep paralysis before, and she experienced a really spooky version of it or a nightmare, and sat up and said that they could see the demons in the negative space. And that really freaked me out because what does that mean? Like the negative space, like the dark matter, or like the space in between worlds? Like, what does that mean? It's so spooky. I want like people to study this more because, so many people have such a similar hallucination or types of hallucinations that there must be something going on here. Is this part of just our collective unconscious, or are we really interacting with like a spirit realm of some kind? I don't know. It's really spooky. Oh, and I see I have a super chat from Carolina. Thank you so much. Cheers. Let's see. Oh, and another comment here that says the Hat Man is pretty common for people to see. I used to see him all the time in my mom's old house. Oh my God, so spooky. So let's see, moving on, we talked about lucid dreaming. We talked about sleep paralysis. So the last thing I wanted to chat about is astral travel. Now, astral travel, or sometimes it's called astral projection, is where you're trying to induce an out of body experience. So, this is predicated on the belief that we have our physical body and then we have our astral body, or some might call it like a soul, an aspect of ourself that is beyond the physical. So, in an out of body experience or while astral traveling, that astral self or soul body leaves our physical body and it can go elsewhere and do other things. Now, this is a bit different depending on what culture you're looking at it from. It's something that has become very popular with the New Age movement, but it does have earlier roots in Hermeticism and Neoplatonism, and then later Theosophy, is that right? I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, and Rosicrucianism. So there are a lot of different philosophical theories around this, a lot of different occult groups and societies that have been interested in out of body experiences and astral travel. And it's something that I will say doesn't have any scientific proof as of yet. So many people have claimed this ability to astral travel, but there isn't any definitive proof. Now, there have been some like experiments in the CIA, like, I don't know, is it Project Blue Book? Could be getting that wrong, but where they have tried to get people to astral travel to see information in another room and come back. Like, there was one story where someone wrote down the coordinates, wrote down a certain coordinate and put it in a manila envelope. And then the other person, who was in a whole different room, tried to figure out where those coordinates went to. So they didn't see the paper, they didn't even see the envelope, and they started describing this weird landscape that was red and craggly and unlivable and hostile. And it turns out that the coordinates that the person had written down were coordinates on Mars. So there are some, examples of scientific studies that have occurred that kind of deal with some of this stuff. But in general, there's still, not definitive proof on out of body experiences. Another common out of body experience that I find really interesting are the near death experiences, where people have said to travel to different realms or to have met other people or met deities or God or anything like that. And then they get sucked back into their body and wake up and they're not dead. So that's another very common out of body experience. But astral travel is trying to induce it. So you're not wanting to wait until you like almost die. You want to try and experience it now. So how do we separate our astral self or our spirit self from our physical body? There's a couple ways you can go about trying to do this. Basically, you want to put yourself in a trance-like state. And this is something I cover more in depth on a video I did a year ago on journeying. So I have that video linked down below if you'd like to learn more about that. But people have been inducing these trance-like states in order to astral travel or have an out-of-body experience for a very long time and across many cultures. Usually, these moments are induced by chanting, drumming, dancing, sometimes hallucinogens. So anything that kind of gets you out of your mundane reality and puts you in this alternative mindset. Some people also try to induce the astral travel experience through meditation. And in fact, there are a lot of guided meditations on YouTube you can watch to try and induce astral travel. I definitely have some friends that have claimed to have this experience where they have risen up from their body and had looked down and seen their physical body before freaking out and getting snapped back into their body. I personally have not had a full out of body experience or astral travel experience, though maybe that's something that'll happen later on. The more I work on this, the more I try and improve. But that's basically what astral travel is. We're trying to separate the spirit self from the physical body. Now, there is a whole lot of other stuff involved with it, especially if you're looking at the New Age concept or the theosophical concept of astral travel. In theosophy, there's the idea of like the world or the universe is composed of these spheres, right? And there's the sphere of the earth and the sphere of heaven. And then there's these spheres of light in between. And in astral travel, you try and move into these other spheres. And once in those spaces, you can interact with like angels, demons, spirits. And they even talk about something called the Akashic records, which apparently is this vast compendium of knowledge and information. Now, I'm not quite sure I believe in all of that, at least not the Akashic records aspect, but maybe there's something to it. I don't know. So different cultures have had different approaches when it comes to what this alternative space is, where they're trying to take their astral self or their astral body. And an interesting question I'd like to pose too is, if you read a lot about historic witch accounts, often they will talk about the witches' Sabbath, which is where women would have their spirit self usually go to, the woods to celebrate with the devil. And they were very afraid of this. So when you read accounts of that time, everyone's thinking these witches were all doing this kind of out-of-body astral travel experience to party with the devil. And you can find recipes for things like flying ointments, which are usually made with certain hallucinogenic plants to help induce that out-of-body experience. Now, did this actually happen, or was it just fearful, people of the time freaking out and worrying about witches? I'm not quite sure. But I do think that's interesting, and it's probably more likely than a bunch of women in the Middle Ages actually gathering, leaving their home in the woods. So that could have potentially happened as well. But I do think that's interesting that there is this very witchy connection to astral travel or the witches' Sabbath, or even something called hag riding. You can look that up too if you're interested. But let me hear what your thoughts are on astral travel, because I'm really curious on your ideas here. Let's see. Good comment from Jakara here, saying to be careful with flying ointments. It's a science and very possible to do it dangerously. Yes, by all means, you have to be very careful with that kind of stuff. You should only do it if you are very confident of what you're using and you're with an expert. So yes, be very careful with that. You don't want to accidentally poison yourself. That would be bad. Let's see, checking your other comments here. Let's see, Old Architect in the comments says, it was weird, but the other day I am 100% sure I did astral travel. I was in a way into a deep meditation, and I couldn't tell you where or when, but I came out of it and felt so amazing and renewed. That's neat. That would be a good experience, probably. Let's see. Peach is asking, yes, I have seen flying ointments advertised. What are they? It's basically, usually it's a lotion of some kind or a salve made with certain mildly hallucinogenic plants. So you usually put it on your skin. This is where I don't know how much I can say on YouTube, but this is where the concept of witches riding a broom comes from. So if you can imagine putting the flying ointment on the broom and then running around with the broom between your legs, so you can get how that could, lead to things. I can't say it anymore, but that's where the whole witches riding the broom thing comes from. If you are curious, or at least one of the origins of that. Let's see. Oh, interesting comment here. Shikaro Star Sun says, I'm about to go to Sedona, Arizona, and they have these thing called vortexes, which I think will be interesting to check out. Yeah, I've been to Sedona or Arizona area. Now, some places do claim to be vortexes or have energy lines. I'm not sure how much of that I believe in, but I'm open to the idea, I would say. Um, let's see. Let me check your comments here. Okay, awesome. Oh, let's see. Interesting comment from My Clara Ocean that says, it's common to hear the low buzzing sound before astral projecting. That's the sound of your astral body detaching from your physical body. And I never stray too far away from my body. Interesting. I didn't know that about like that buzzing sound. I'll have to keep an eye out for that next time I'm trying to induce an astral travel state. Another thing that I thought I would mention, some people claim to see a silver cord connecting them to their physical body when they are astral traveling. And that silver cord is actually mentioned in the Bible, in the book of Ecclesiastes, something like that. So that actually has a pretty old origin, the idea of this kind of cord connecting the soul or the spirit self to the physical body. A lot of people also have the experience of, if they've astral traveled, also experiencing some dark entities or entities, spirits that realize something's weird here. Someone's here that wouldn't normally be in this spirit realm and they're naturally attracted to it. So you do kind of have to be careful with that kind of stuff. Let's see. A good comment here from Sellers NRN that says, as a psychiatric RN, I'd recommend being careful with astral travel due to some risk for disassociation. Be sure you're aware of your own limitations. Yeah, definitely. You would never want to attempt astral travel if you're in a bit of an unbalanced state. You want to make sure that you would be ready for an experience like that. So yeah, it's definitely not for everyone. And let's see. Interesting comment from Jason M that says, once I ended up lucid dreaming, from which point I pushed myself out of my body and experienced the vibration sounds. I woke up and then experienced sleep paralysis and couldn't move for a bit. So that sounds like you had all three in one. That would be quite an interesting experience. Let's see. Catherine in the comments says, Aang astral travels in Avatar The Last Airbender. They have to guard his body so he'll be able to find it and come back. Yes, I love Avatar The Last Airbender. It's so good. Obviously, not the movie. The movie was horrible. The series, though, is great. And, that's a good show, too, in terms of a lot of mysticism that they bring in. I really like that. Awesome. Let's see. Joey is asking, are there any spiritual beings that are hazardous to astral travel? Perhaps a lot of people have had, experiences where they've seen a darker entity or something like that and got a bit freaked out from it. So who knows what's going on? Who knows what's really happening when we astral travel? There's a lot of unanswered questions there that make it all very exciting. Wow. Great comments. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing your thoughts and your ideas. Astral travel is something that I think is becoming a bit better known. More people are trying it out, I guess you could say. And I think there's a lot of weird stuff you can find online about astral travel and out-of-body experiences. So you do have to use your best judgment there on what's accurate, what's reality, but ultimately you have to be careful, if it is something you want to try. It's like that comment said, it's not for everyone. You definitely don't want to do it if you are in a highly emotional or unbalanced state, because it could really freak you out. But as someone who is interested in things like witchcraft and the subconscious and altered states and everything like that, it is something I think I will probably, continue to learn more about and maybe try out more myself to see if I can, um, get anywhere with it. So let's see, we have a few minutes left. Share your comments and questions if you have any. I am here to answer for you. Now would be a good time if you are interested in helping the show. You could do a super chat to donate any amount, and I'll be sure to answer your question. And this has been really fun. This has been a more spooky conversation, I think, which I really enjoyed. So let me have a sip of my mead, and I'll check your comments. Let's see. Yasmir in the comments says, if I ever experience astral travel, my main fear would be not to find demonic entities or hellish places, but finding myself in the void itself, the absolute dark emptiness and nothingness. That would be spooky. Yeah, and imagine trying to get out of that space. Yeah, that would be really scary. Nicole is asking, is lucid dreaming always a connection to spirits? Not necessarily, in my opinion. Lucid dreaming is just when you're aware that you're in your dream. So you have the power then to make anything happen that you would like. So you can have fun with it and create the dream that you want to dream. Let's see. Oh, a good book recommendation here. Let's see. Catherine is recommending Astral Projection for Beginners by Edian McCoy, which helped a lot with dream recall and astral travel. So thank you for that book recommendation. Let's see. Great comments. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Let's see. Oh, another book recommendation here that says, let's see, Follow the Shaman's Path by Mike Williams is a great book that has helped me with astral travel. Thank you, Beth, for that book recommendation. Let's see. I see a couple of you guys in the comments talking about shifting as a TikTok trend. I have heard of that, and technically that would be an example of astral travel, I guess. I'm not super aware of what they're doing, but it sounds like with shifting, they're trying to like go into imaginary worlds like Harry Potter and things like that. So I don't know like exactly what they're experiencing, but it almost even sounds like a little bit of a lucid dream, right? Where you're trying to be conscious in this imaginary world that you can create in your subconscious. So yeah, I don't know what they're doing. Those crazy kids. I'm too old now as a millennial to be on top of all the trends anymore. Let's see. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing your thoughts and your ideas. I really appreciate everything you've brought to the conversation. This has been really fun. This whole topic, there is still so much that is unknown and undiscovered. So it's exciting to hear your thoughts and your ideas and your own experiences. And I'll probably see you guys again next week on Friday at the normal time of 5 Central, 6 Eastern. For the next Pagan Happy Hour, I am planning on doing some more Yule content coming up, as it's still early, but pretty soon, before we know it, it will be Yuletide. So stay tuned for that. And again, if you are interested in joining the Discord or my Patreon, I have that link down below. Oh, and I see we have a super chat from Terry. Thank you so much. Cheers. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend. Feel free to share any questions or comments with me. And if you do have suggestions, ideas for future videos for Yule or future topics for Pagan Happy Hour, my ear is always open for those ideas. So thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful night, and I'll see you later. Bye.